Hello, Asia, and hello, world. Diverse representation in politics and governance is important to ensure that every voice is heard and a wide range of issues are addressed. There are sectors, however, that continue to be underrepresented, but whose issues and challenges are as equally important to be heard and addressed as the rest of the population. Among those who are underrepresented in politics and governance are members of the LGBTQIA community. A UN report in 2024 noted that there were only 230 openly LGBT members of parliament in 50 countries in 2020. There have been a number of reports of members of the LGBTQIA community who have engaged in the electoral processes and have succeeded in winning seats in parliament. In 2024, Huang Jie became the first openly gay legislator in Taiwan when she won a seat in parliament. Geraldine Roman became the first transgender woman elected into the Philippine Congress in 2016. Chanu Nimesha became the first openly transgender candidate to contest in the 2024 parliamentary elections in Sri Lanka, while Mami Vera ran in the regional legislature elections in Indonesia in 2024. While there has been progress in the visibility and acceptance of the members of the LGBTQIA community, they continue to face discrimination, harassment, and lack of recognition of their rights and freedoms. The International Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Trans, and Intersex Association noted in a report the progress, while limited for some, on the decriminalization of consensual same-sex sexual acts, enacting new anti-discrimination legislation, anti-hate crime legislation, and legal protection for same-sex couples. However, there were emerging regressive trends in some of these areas, including alarming acceleration and escalation of legal barriers to freedom of expression, civic space restrictions, and anti-gender movements, among others. In this episode of the Election Observer podcast, we'll discuss promoting inclusion and addressing societal inequality through LGBTQIA community representation and participation in politics, governance, and public policy making. I'm your host, John Antiquera, and we are live via ANFRL's Facebook and LinkedIn pages, as well as via ANFRL's YouTube channel. The episodes of the Election Observer podcast can also be streamed later on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Joining us in this episode are Rosanna Flamer-Caldera, Executive Director of Equal Ground Sri Lanka, and Cornelius Damar Hanung, East Asia and ASEAN Program Manager at the Asian Forum for Human Rights and Development, or Forum Asia. Hello, um, Hanung and Rosanna. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Election Observer podcast.
Good afternoon, Sean. Hello.
Hello, Rosanna. For now, we can't see your video. I'm not sure if you can hear us, but um, if you can turn on your video and speak to us, we would appreciate that. But let's move forward with our episode for this afternoon. No? As I've said, there have been pioneering members of the LGBTQIA community who participated and succeeded in contesting elections, but they seem to be the exceptions rather than the rule. So my question is, why do you think there are relatively few openly out members of the community of contested elections? For Hano?
Uh, I think it's a very complicated topic to be discussed as well because when it comes about the elections, it's also not only about the representations of
Mm-hmm.
the queer community because it's also about uh, the complex system of the election as well.
Yes.
Because how the election is run, about the system, about how costly the elections is all about, and then the
Yes.
process, and then the backing that you have to have, and then the campaign, and not only about that because election also means about visibilities as well, because as a candidate you have to make yourself known, you have to make yourself visible,
Mm-hmm.
and visibility for queer people means also that you have to make yourself exposed, and that's also means risk for queer individuals,
Mm-hmm.
and then that goes to the questions whether it is a safe and enabling environment for those individuals in Asia and Southeast Asia, particulars where I'm based in, whether it's safe or not for those individuals to become members of parliaments,
Mm-hmm.
for example. And I think you correctly mentioned that looking at whether Southeast Asia have a comprehensive anti-discrimination law for queer individuals to be protected. That is
Mm-hmm.
something that we're still missing at the moment. So that's why I think that is also contributing to why we have openly queer individuals as the uh, running candidates for the elections at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Um, I just received an email from Rosanna. I think she's having some technical difficulties. But if you can hear us, I would suggest to leave the room first and then rejoin again. Sometimes that works. Sometimes because of technical issues that happen. So I would suggest if you can hear us to leave and then rejoin. I will add you again to the stream. Um, I guess just a follow up question to that. No, um, you've mentioned about enabling environment. No, my next question actually is what are the challenges that members of the community face in contesting elections? Because I've mentioned already some who have participated, contested elections. They may or may not necessarily win, but then they have contested amid the environments where they belong. But what do you think are the challenges that they are facing in contesting elections?
Um, I think I can go first, and then maybe Rosanna can add
Yes,
later.
yes.
It's not necessarily legal challenges,
Mm-hmm.
I would say, but challenges can manifest from stigma and discriminations, bullying, in social media,
Mm-hmm.
as well. That sometimes can also be manifested into physical challenges
Mm-hmm.
if the surrounding environments or the the the, the safety and security of the surrounding cannot protect the candidates as well. So that can manifest as well. Doxing, uh, like uh, stealing data, data and privacy. That can be also another key challenges that might be facing by the candidates. So those type of the challenges, and sometimes the challenges might not be only targeting the candidates, but
Mm-hmm.
also can be targeting the friends and then family as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to also looking at it as as a different layers of challenges. Also not only candidates, but also their loved ones as well.
Okay. Hello, Rosanna. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. It's nice to see you. We cannot hear you though. Hello. Can you try? No, we still cannot hear you. Hello. Maybe it's because of the earphones. Hello. Hello. No.
Yeah.
Oh,
Uh,
there. We can hear you.
you can hear me now.
Yes.
All
Yes.
right. Okay.
Great.
We'll be without these. Okay.
Yes, yes. Let me just
Sorry
ask my
about.
first question again, no. As
Of
I've
course.
mentioned in my introduction, there have been there have been members of the LGBTQIA plus community who have contested elections, who have participated in elections. But as also noted in some reports, very few people, relatively very few members of the community contest elections. First question was, why do you think there are relatively few openly out members of the community who participate in elections?
Well, I think first and foremost we have to look at the laws of our country, which
Mm-hmm.
still criminalize, consenting adult same-sex relationships.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is that because of that existing, a lot of people think that just being gay is a criminal offense,
Yes.
but that's not true. However, uh, years and years of people telling LGBTIQ persons that they're wrong, that they're pedophiles, they're this, they're that, and the other thing, they basically shut themselves away and are afraid to come out. I think the first really openly gay politician we had was Mangala Samarasinghe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he was in government for a very long time, but even there, he faced a lot of issues from parliamentarians because of his sexuality. Um, this year, the or last year during the elections, the party that won the elections did come out with a manifesto including LGBTIQ persons and also saying that they will decriminalize here in Sri Lanka. We are yet to see any kind of change. Yes, there were some parliamentarians or members of that political party that stood for elections that were openly gay or trans. Um, and the thing is that nobody really, unless they actually say, "Hey, look, I'm a proud, LGBTIQ parliamentarian," it's very difficult for anyone to point fingers and say, "Oh, that person is gay," or out that person if they don't want to be outed. I
Yes.
mean, the community knows, but we are not about to point fingers and say, "Well, you're gay, so you should be saying and doing things for us this way or that way, the other way." So
Yes.
it's a very tricky kind of situation that it's difficult to cross, and sometimes it's very difficult to, because there's a lot of homophobia still in this country. Yeah.
Yes. No, as a follow-up to that question, I also asked Hanong about this, no. For those who have contested elections, what do you think are the challenges that they face in participating in the elections? Also, just to add, no, I wasn't able to ask this earlier to Hanong as well. Like, would you know of any challenges for voters, for example, in participating in elections? Have they faced any challenges in participating in the elections?
I think one of the biggest problems that they faced, especially for transgender persons, is that their NICs, the National Identity Card, and all of their required documents are basically registered in their villages or homes that they grew up with in or whatever. A lot of them have left their family homes and migrated to places like Colombo so that they can live freely, they can get jobs and so on and so forth. But in order to vote, they have to go back to their village, yeah, or their town. And that can be daunting, particularly because suddenly if a post operative trans person, a post transition trans person walked up to their family home, and the
Yes.
parents are suddenly like, see this person who they didn't know was this, would be it would be very sort of daunting, and may not be the kind of what should I say, welcome that they expect. So they're very scared to go. And also the local government system in the rural areas, it's a little bit difficult for LGBTIQ persons. They have to stand in queues, they have to be at the mercy of officers there who might make fun of them or jeer them, or just stop, like not help them at all, and things like that. And these are the things that I think cause a huge amount of problem for LGBTIQ voters, as well as anybody even wanting to stand for election, because they have to, sit through a lot of, anti stuff, especially when they're campaigning. Yeah.
How about you, Hanu? You cover East Asia and ASEAN. Is it the
Mhm.
same in countries in this region?
I observed similar challenge with what Rosanna have mentioned, particularly in Indonesia, with regards to the national identity cards. Uh, well, challenges might manifest diverse between the within LGBT, but for the trans people, it's particularly the same because many of them, particularly trans women or trans female, they went away from their domicile at a very young age. They didn't have the national identity card, and then so that's why they couldn't be registered in their domicile, the current domicile, and then they couldn't be registered to vote for the vote. But we observed that there is a good practice that some NGOs have helped them to be registered and get their national identity card as well in the recent elections, so that they could be able to vote in the recent elections
Mhm.
as well. And then those one of the best practice that we have recently looked at as well, that some of the LGBTIQ community organizations helped trans people to be able to register and to vote
Mhm.
in the recent elections of Indonesia.
I see that's something that's a positive development at least, no. Um, Going to my next question, there have been advances in passing legislations that recognize the rights and freedoms of the members of the community, while there have also been alarming number of efforts to deny those rights and freedoms. Um, just to cite a few, in 2024, Thailand passed the marriage equality law. In 2022, Singapore scrapped a colonial era law that criminalizes gay sex, but then it introduced a constitutional amendment that blocked full marriage equality. And then in 2023, the Supreme Court in Sri Lanka said that the decriminalization of homosexuality is not unconstitutional in relation to challenges to bills seeking to repeal sections 365 and 365A of the Sri Lankan Penal Code. No, my question is, how does anti-LGBTQIA plus legislation and policies impact the members of the community?
Shall I go first? Or-
Yes, please.
Oh, sure. Okay, so while all of that is there in place, I mean, the we have some policies regarding transgender. For example, they can apply for a gender recognition certificate, and then they can change their birth certificates as well as their NIC. But of course, when it comes to voting, they have to go back to their hometowns. Um, the decriminalization bill that was brought into Parliament in 2022 following the CEDAW case, it's still in Parliament, and this government has a two-thirds majority and can easily do it if they so wish to. But I feel that there is also a lot of party influence as well. Um, Second of all, since Mr. Trump has come into office, there has been a rise in right-wing rhetoric about LGBTIQ persons and this sort of singular-only narrative that previous governments have brought up, and so that's a very dangerous kind of sign because that could mean that they try and derail the decriminalization process if they possibly can. Um, Even though this new government has made overtures to do that, they have actually put it in their policy manifesto that you can find online that they are going to decriminalize. It's been, well, it'll be almost a year in a couple of months that they've been in office, and there hasn't really been that much progress on decriminalization. I think there's more rhetoric starting now from the Catholic Church and Christian right evangelicals that are here and are being, funded obviously by the United States, churches. That is sparking a bit of backlash, and we found this at Pride this year, where there was quite a bit of social media backlash on the LGBTIQ community during Pride. And of course, I'm not 100% sure about who's actually legitimately saying these things or whether these are bots or whatever the hell they call these things these days. But it was a little bit alarming. But having said that, we didn't have any problems. We had the biggest Pride celebration this year. So we are really happy about that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe the bots actually played into our hands. I don't know.
Nice. Hanum?
Mhm. Uh, I think in Southeast Asia we have to look at it as it's a region with a diverse with a diversity of LGBTIQ rhetoric as well, because in the Singaporean context, for example, even though they decriminalize homosexuality, they then lock the marriage equality into only men and women as well. But that doesn't mean that the LGBTIQ struggle is done in that sense. And then we also have countries like Brunei Darussalam that still criminalize homosexuality with a death penalty, for example, even though there is a still moratorium. Even in the Thailand context, even though there is a marriage equality being passed, but we've seen and then observed that there is still hatred and then violence against transgender community there that is still exists. So even though that there is a marriage equality pass, but there's still an increase of violence against other parts of the community of the LGBTI people that still needs to be addressed, meaning that the anti-discrimination law uh, against the community that needs to be passed as well. And that also a bigger questions about the other countries like Indonesia, for example. We also have Aceh, that a region that still have a problematic provisions for homosexuality as well, and the other countries. So meaning that of course there are things that needs to celebrate, but we also needs to look at comprehensively of how this uh, legislation means for all of the queer spectrums, I would say. But I think Rosanna also rightly mentioned that how this also needs to be connected with all of the anti-right, all of the rise of the right, the rising of the right wings movement at the moment. That also means that the LGBTIQ movement also needs to be work in a more intersectionality with other movement as well, so that it must be connected with how the other movement are seeing or position their self as well with all of this rhetoric ongoing at this stage. So that's how I see it, how I see this at this point.
Okay. Um, on the other side of it, no, how do you think the better representation of the community in governance and public policy making impact the upholding of rights and freedoms of the community and in combating efforts to deny those rights and freedoms?
Well, in Sri Lanka, it's a difficult situation to ask people to be openly gay and also serving in the government. It's a sort of they have to put up with quite a bit of negative, situations that they face. So sometimes it's better not to say anything about their sexuality, and rightly so. I don't think that their sexuality has to be number one on top of the list of things
Yes.
that they should be focusing on. But it would be nice if we didn't have the kind of backlash that we continue to have, especially when there are LGBTIQ persons in parliament. I was referring to Mangala Samaravira earlier, and there was a famous comment by the president calling him a butterfly and in a very derogatory term, and then he turned it around. And Mangala was one of those people who could stand up for himself, but not everybody can do that. Yeah. And so it's nice to see that this party that's in government right now has LGBTIQ persons, but we know that there are some of them there, but they're not openly LGBTIQ. Yeah.
Yes.
They don't put that as a front runner to what they are doing or their positions or whatever. And in a way, yes, I can understand that, and it is for protection. It is for prevent backlash and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's also giving in to the right wing rhetoric that it's shameful to be LGBTIQ and that they shouldn't be there. They're all pedophiles. They're this. They're child molesters. And this is the same old rhetoric that is churned out every single time. I mean, the minute they started their they started a protest against LGBTIQ in front of the U.S. embassy, saying that they are with Mr. Trump on this, and the woke LGBTIQ child molesters should be run out of our country, and all of that. So there's always that kind of pressure that's brought on LGBTIQ persons, and not everybody has the strength to say, "Oh, get lost, I'm doing this anyway."
Yes.
So it's a very hard journey. I'm just proud that in the 25 years that I have been advocating for rights here in this country, we've seen quite a lot of change. And the fact that we have a political party that is actually using their political manifesto and their policy manifesto to say that they are going to change and decriminalize the laws that affect the LGBTIQ community. They want Sri Lanka to be, equal rights for everyone, and so on and so forth. So, I mean, there has been a lot of change, but change comes very slowly to islands such as ours. Yeah, we are very sleepy, and sea breezes and stuff. So anybody can sort of churn up a rhetoric very easily, and politicians here are very adept at doing that. Yeah, so it's still a long journey for us, I think.
Mhm. Uh, I think in a country like Indonesia, it's only possible for open representations if there is a systemic change that happen. But what we can rely on in the at the moment is a regional solidarity that we could see, like for example countries like Malaysia and Indonesia. If we could see that there is a representations often representation in the Philippines or in Thailand, for example, where there is policymakers or rights commissioner, for example, that could be an open representations of the part of the community, it could send a positive message that there's a possibility that it could happen as well, and it could send a positive message to the movement that there is a route to the possibility in the future as well. So the movement can also rely on the South solidarity that we could always uh, built. And even though I think there's a similarity on what's happening in Sri Lanka and Indonesia as well, that even though we might know someone that there's also part of the community in the parliaments or in the governments, uh, there might be some ways to connect with one another, and maybe there maybe the time is not right to have an open representation at the moment, but this could plant the seed to be a better uh, future for an open representation in the future. So we don't know. Maybe it in the coming years, 10 years or perhaps later, but that's something that needs to be monitored and needs to be hopeful and tested in the future as well.
Yes. No, just to add, no, I agree with what has been said. It's not necessarily just that once people are out there, the ones who are going to push for policies that are for the members of the LGBT community. Of course, you have allies. There are parliamentarians out there. There are people in government that are pushing for equal rights for everyone. And it's not necessary that you have to be an out politician. But then also on the other side, visibility matters. No, I think as people, as human beings, we're afraid of what we don't see. So when people are not, when we don't know of something, we don't see them in positions of power like parliamentarians or possibly a gay president. No, people are afraid of that because they don't see it necessarily, and that's why visibility matters. I remember in the Philippines when one party list group that is LGBTQIA oriented ran in the elections. Some of the people in Congress were saying, but that there are already members of the Congress that are members of the LGBT community, but they're not necessarily out. But then it's not a prerequisite to being part of the government, right? That still representation matters, and that's being able to see people from a diverse background, not just members of the LGBT community, women, um, people with disability, all those other sectors that are underrepresented in government. It's would be nice to see them represented in government, and their concerns and issues also being addressed in government. No? This is quite a short episode. I'm down to my last question already. My last question is, what can be done to improve participation and engagement of the members of the LGBTQIA plus community in governance and public policy making?
Well, that's a tough question. It doesn't have one answer.
Yes.
And it's like as if, you know, we have been actually preparing for this kind of situation for the last 20 years with Equal Ground, my organization, because been focusing a lot on allies and friends and families of LGBTIQ persons, in order to push this, agenda, not agenda, agenda is a very harsh word, this thing forward where, all LGBTIQ persons in Sri Lanka could live, their authentic lives without having to look over their shoulder or be, stigmatized or criminalized or anything like that. So in a way, we have been preparing for this moment, and it's a great thing to see in a way that, and certainly I'm not taking all the credit for Equal Ground, because since 2017 there have been other organizations also coming into the fray, and a lot of them have worked very closely with, but the fact that they have been able to, form organizations post 2017 is also, testament to the fact that things have changed, because for a long time we were the only organization working on advocacy and, building LGBTIQ lives, other than the HIV/AIDS, focus. So it is taking time, but these things do take time because we have to unpack 134 140 plus years worth of, homophobia,
Yeah.
and that can't be done in 1 year or 1 month. It has to be something that, has a vision and a policy, and, we have to do it the right way. We have to make sure that people hear the message and take it in the right way rather than in the wrong way. And the more allies we have on our side, the more chances we have then of opening up more spaces for us, socially, politically, in the education sphere, everywhere. So it's not something that happens overnight in our case, because of the old colonial laws that we inherited, and all the other countries in Asia that have inherited those laws as well. We are not as strong as, say, for example, India. And it's very difficult to push for these things because we're a little island that, can go this way or that way politically at any given moment. So we just have to wait and see, because now, for example, at the moment, this government seems positive about doing something for the LGBTIQ community. But I think, 10 months have passed, and so far, nothing. They haven't even put it for a vote in parliament, and they do have a two-thirds majority. So one might be asking oneself, what the hell is going on? Yeah,
Yes.
why not? So only they know why not.
Mhm.
They certainly don't tell us why not. But we are urging the government to go ahead and get that vote and get it done as soon as possible, because we waited a long time, 140
Yes.
plus years, and it's not something that, I mean, yeah, we are not asking for, marriage equality right now. We want to go first to have decriminalization. But these people who are opposing us are using this marriage thing as, oh, they want to get married, they want to do this and that, and so they are trying to push the marriage agenda. We are not. Yeah. But they're using it as a tool to try and, you know uh, waylay the story, so to speak, so that it, sort of has some kind of, urgency to, hey, let's think about it really fast, hard and fast, because, if we do decriminalize, then they'll want gay marriage, they will want marriage equality, and then what are you going to do? Are you going to give that to them as well? And that shouldn't be there, and all this other stuff. So, it's not a 1 2 3 situation. It is just a long process, and we are happy with how it has come so far. Wish it could be, faster. Wish decriminalization could be tomorrow, but this is what we have, so we have to work with that. Yeah.
Again, I think I really agree with Rosanna that there's no direct answer to that, but I think it's really by start humanizing the community as well, and by really start listening on what the community wants, and really start building the conversations, and not really assuming what best for the communities uh, as well, and then start building the conversations, and then start to to really work on what's good together, and then even like even what we said about raising the visibility do matters, but if it's only about for tokenism, then
Yeah.
it's futile. Even if we have more uh, visibility in the parliament, if there is no real changes on the ground for the betterment of the community, then it's not
Yes.
uh, something that the community wants as well. So again, there should be real changes, and then it needs to be with the active participations through communications with the community as well, particularly those who are working at the grassroots level, not only for like communication with those who are at the elite, those who are close with the party, those with the political levels, because they might have a different opinion on what's good. So that's why like those communications, participation, and engagement needs to be done at the different various levels. So only those uh, then the meaningful engagement can be done. Of course, those things might takes time, but I think though that painful process needs to be done, like whatever it takes, and whenever, however, like how long it takes, it needs to be done as well. So I hope that I answered that questions.
Yes. As I said, that was my last question. No. We still have some time. I would like to invite you, if you would like to invite our viewers to follow you on social media or anything about your work, you can take this opportunity to do so.
Well, Equal Ground, my organization, is on Facebook and Insta. Um, so you can follow us there and on LinkedIn. Um, you know, we are open to questions if they have any questions as well. And, yeah, just Google us and we're around. Thank you.
Hano?
Formation works in 23 countries. We are membership-based organizations with 90 members at the moment. So just find me in LinkedIn or in our Instagram as well. So happy to be connected. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you again, Rosanna and Hanung, for joining us today. That was a short. I think this is the shortest episode that we have, but still, quite meaningful insights from the two of you. Thank you for joining us. I would have to remove you from the stream so that I can formally close the show, but thank you again for joining us and for
Thank you
accepting
for
our
having us.
invitation.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thank
And
you. Thank you for
I'm really
having us.
sorry about the glitch right at the start. I'm not that
It's
tech
okay.
savvy, so yeah.
It's
Thanks.
okay.
All
Thank
right.
you. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, thank you. Bye. Yes, and that has been the Election Observer podcast episode on promoting inclusion and addressing societal inequality through LGBTQIA plus community representation and participation in politics, governance, and public policy making. Get the latest news and updates about ANFREL programs and activities through our Facebook, X, LinkedIn, and TikTok pages. You can also subscribe to our YouTube and WhatsApp channels. Please follow the Election Observer podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. This is episode 9, and we are close to the season finale. Next week, join us for episode 10 of the Election Observer podcast. Thank you for joining us again today. I'm your host, John Antiquera. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.